All right, Dan, so I want to throw the same question to you that I finished with Katie there. Do you agree with George McPhee that this team, as it's currently set up, is a playoff roster and with just a couple of moves could be a Stanley Cup team?
I mean, I think the obvious way to respond is no. We saw what this team was, and this team was a middle-of-the-pack team that really needed to kind of fight and claw even to be middle of the pack. That was, you know, at some point in the season in danger of falling kind of far back in the pack. There are major questions in the blue line. Kuznetsov obviously gave them a boost, but I think that's wishful thinking, unless you want to take the stance that every team in the NHL is 3 or 4 players away.
Bingo. That's the broad stroke of that statement. You could say that about a lot of teams in the league, is that the roster as is with a couple more changes.
A couple of things.
Right. Could be a playoff contender. I mean, they have made the playoffs every year leading up to this season. So they are a playoff roster because you've had guys in the playoffs. But you could say it's such a broad stroke of a statement. I mean, you could use that in any scenario.
And not to jump back in, best of 7 series there's obviously kind of luck and chance involved here and there. But this is a team that never made it out of the second round. They've never made it out of the second round. So I think to talk about being a cup team, you know, if you're in the Eastern Conference Finals and you get a bad break and you lose in 7 games, whatever, of course you can see that scenario. I mean, it's hard to imagine right now that they're a cup contending team when they have not shown us anything in the postseason and now aren't even in the playoffs.
But you can assume that that's a sellable statement because of the name recognition of the players you have on your roster. It's like an easy play for somebody who's strategically trying to position what it is that they did in terms of what their job was. I mean, if I'm George McPhee, I can tell you I brought Nicholas Backstrom here, I brought Alex Ovechkin here, I brought Michael Green here. These are guys that we have looked at as all-stars. They are MVPs. So I can make that a sellable statement based off of the work that I've done because of their name recognition. So he's right in what he's saying, but the reality of it is you also have a different type of expectation on you when you bring those type of players in and you can't make it out of the second round of the playoffs.
But Brandon, I mean, he's certainly proud of what he built here in Washington. It came through in those words. I mean, would you agree that with LeVar that those are mostly accurate statements and anybody could say they're 2 or 3 players away?
Especially in the NHL with the parity that you have. I mean, it's not like the NBA where it's kind of the same 10, 8 teams. Like every year, there's so many moves in the NHL in the offseason, and like LeVar said, he's brought in guys that are known. And I mean, aside from this year, they make the playoffs, so they are in that contention discussion there every year. But yeah, I mean, anybody could say that, and I think he's not, you know, far off by saying that, but it's easy to say.
Yeah, I mean, one thing you'd have to say about McPhee, give him credit for trying at the trade deadline many years to try to add and bolster a team for a run. Didn't pan out a lot, and obviously that came back to hurt them in their depth.
I mean, I think George McPhee did many, many great things. I don't know why you would give him credit for making trades that didn't work out.
Well, you know, you could point to Oates and his unwillingness to use Penner, and like there was some friction there on that one.
But he's the general manager. He hired the coach.
It's fair. It's fair. But I mean, he was swinging the bat. He was taking a swing. They didn't pan out. But at least he was aggressively trying to improve the team, with that core to make a run that year.
To be honest, I think that if he had less aggressively tried the year that he dealt off Forsberg or the year that he dealt Cody Eakin, then you'd have a couple more players right now.
Well, and that's the point. By making those short-term moves, they thinned the cabinet, and they didn't have the depth they needed.
What we can agree on is that the barrel, that roulette game that was being played with coaches and the general manager will now turn to the players. That's what we can agree on.